All right, what's up, everyone? We're going to be talking about the three archetypes, future archetypes of the failed normie. Failed normies, we already know what they are. They're guys that just sit around whining, even though they have, potential underneath the fat, or they haven't tried looks maxing or anything yet. Maybe it's they're ugly because they have horrible acne, or basically everything that's controllable by soft looks maxing is why they're not getting laid. And the other part is the mental component. A lot of these guys, they just get a high off of feeling like a victim. So sitting around whining about Chad, and sitting around whining about feminism, or sitting around whining about politics is much more appealing to them than actually going to the gym and looks maxing. Unironically, the guys that are failed normies are the guys that the red pill stuff would work for. And when I mean red pill, I'm talking more about the looks red pill. I'm not talking about the just use these 3 lines or whatever. No, you need a basic degree of social skills, the ability to ask for a phone number, the ability to set up a time and date, and basically the ability to not fuck it up, and enough looks to pass the looks test. Basically, that's all it is. Passing the looks test is the prerequisite, and then basic social skills to not fuck it up. That's basically what these guys need. But some of these guys, even doing that is too much for them. They would rather just sit around crying. And I'm going to be talking about the 3 archetypes of failed normies that they inevitably become in the future. I've seen so many of these guys that I've talked to, and I've watched videos of, and I've seen old videos and looked at, and I've been like, damn, some of these guys have really devolved far, and what they become in the future is pretty sad. I'm going to be talking about all 3 categories and which one I would say is the best of the 3. First of all, we have the loser. These are guys that they never escape the abyss. These are guys that sit around whining about feminism, or they sit around whining about politics, especially if they get into alt-right, far alt-right politics, and end up like Vinny Van Dildo and just sit around crying and just being some fat slob sitting around crying about politics, and they say, oh, there's an agenda against me. It's like, no, you're just a fat fuck who doesn't want to go to the gym. It's like, no! I mean, these guys, they also just sit around calling everything cope and saying, oh no, you're oh no, talking to women's cope because Chad has women go up to him right away, so why the hell would you make an effort? Or fill in the blank pretty boy, he doesn't need to work out, he doesn't need to take care of his acne or whatever, he was just already naturally in shape, or he already never had acne to begin, so why should I have to try and get rid of it? Or these guys, they don't want to try, they don't want to do anything, so they just sit around in this category, inevitably just whining, and they never escape the abyss. And how these guys usually end is they start off, like a failed normie whiner, and they never escape the abyss, even though after the evidence and the solutions are put in their face, they never escape the abyss, and they just sit around whining. And then how these guys usually end is eventually one day they either get health issues, and then they croak, and nobody knows, because these guys had no presence, no social presence, no family, no friends, nobody gave a fuck about them, so they croak and nobody knows. The only way you know is because they stop posting comments underneath your videos. So they become like that. That's the first category. They're dead now, so we don't have to talk about them. The next category is, I'm going to break it off in 2 subcategories. We have the improved, and there's 2 kinds of guys who improve. The first type is actually the best type, in my opinion. These are the guys who improve their looks. They do regret it. They do say, okay, look, when I was 20, I was kind of a bitch. I was kind of a loser. I got a high off of feeling like a victim. But you know what? 2 years since, I've decided to go to the gym every day, lose the weight, get a hair transplant. I've done, I got my teeth fixed. I've been doing a lot of looks maxing, and I'm now at least, I'm now like a 6 out of 10. Or some of these guys, they even get up better than that. They end up, Chad category or whatever. Some of these guys, they become good looking, or they become attractive, and then they just resume their life, and they, continue where they pretty much become normal normies again, and some of them are able to pull chicks, and they're able to just go about their life. And then we have the other kind. They do looks max, and they do escape the subhumanity. And what happens is they go around and they see guys who are actual sub 5s, and they go around and say, Oh, bro, you guys have victim mindsets. If I can do it, then you can do it. Oh, bro, all you guys, you just want to sit around whining and you don't want to try. And they're not right, they're not wrong to a degree, because there are a lot of these failed normie fat asses who don't want to actually make an effort. But I mean, when it comes, and you know, a lot of these bottle pissers as well. I mean, don't get me started on the bottle pissers again. But I mean, a lot of these guys, you know, a lot of the improved guys, they like to label every guy who's not getting laid as a failed normie, even though we do have a lot of guys who did try. We have a lot of guys who are, you know, legitimately fucked. These guys, you know, they did go to the gym or they did everything, but some of these guys, their face is really bad, very short, very weird ethnicity or whatever, or, you know, they balded very early. Like, I mean, you mean to tell me a guy who went bald in high school, or like I know a couple guys who have gone bald that I've talked to on Discord who have gone bald before 20. Like, you mean to tell me that's a fucking choice? Oh, but they can put a croissant on top of their head. Look, no one's gonna do that. You can only put croissants on top of your head if you have glowing red skin and eyes that are too close together. But no, what realistically happens is the guys who improve, they either accept, you know, that what they did in the past was stupid, and then they, you know, go about their life and actually, you know, have a somewhat normal life afterwards, or they rub it in the faces of sub-5s. The next category is regret. I've seen this happen one too many times, which is what happens to these guys in the future is maybe they were not. Usually this doesn't apply to guys that are overweight or whatever. It applies to guys who maybe they were average looking or whatever, or they were like 6, 7 out of 10. They had options. They had girls that were interested in them, but they didn't like these options. They just sat around and whined. They were like, oh no, I don't want a brunette girl. I want a blonde girl. Oh no, I don't want a Hispanic girl. I want an Asian girl, or whatever the hell. The problem I have I'm not saying that if all you can attract are 1s and 2s and fucking war beasts. No, if all you can attract are the orcs from Lord of the Rings, then yeah, you might as well just go MGTOW from that point on. But I mean, if you actually have somewhat decent options and you're sitting around whining, these are the guys I have no regret for when they reached the wall. These guys, when they hit the wall, I really don't feel any regret. I don't feel any sympathy at all, because these guys had potential, but they just sat around whining. What happens is they regret it. These guys, you know, maybe they sit around whining for 5, 10 years, and then what happens is their hairline starts receding. Their croissant just starts going back further and further, and they reach the point of no return, or, you know, their face just, you know, ages badly. They start graying. They start getting wrinkles. They start putting on, you know, weight. Their face starts getting fat, and, you know, they just can't control the decline of looks. And then or maybe they can, but I mean, some of them, they reach the decline, and seeing the decline is some guys, when they see a little bit of a decline right away, they get off their ass and say, oh shit, I really got to pull my head out of my ass and, you know, start bettering the last bit of my looks I have before they're gone. But I mean, other guys, what happens is they wait till their looks are completely gone. Maybe they were like a pretty boy that was just sitting around whining because he didn't like his options. Now he's just some fucking bald 35-year-old faggot, and he's just like, oh shit, I should have gotten, you know, laid in my youth. I should have tried. I should have taken what I could get. But no, I just wanted to sit on the forums and cry. And I've seen this happen before. Some of these guys, they have decent looks, and then they're posting, you know, screenshots of their DMs, screenshots of their Tinder matches, all that. And then what happens is when they hit the wall and their looks decline, they can't pull any females anymore. They can't no girls are attracted to them. Some of these guys, they got a high off of feeling like a victim, and that was what they felt good about. But the other thing that also made them feel good was female validation. When they were walking around at Target, the fact that a couple girls turned their heads and looked at them, or, you know, maybe they did get, you know, attention from dating apps, but they, you know, never had the social abilities to move it forward. But some of these guys, you know, what happens is the decline, and they see their looks decline, and they see the attention from women goes away, and that's enough of a warning for some of these guys to be like, oh fuck, I wasted my youth. And these guys, I really don't have much sympathy for, because everybody told them what they should have done and what they could have done. But no, these guys, they, instead of, you know, trying to actually take what they can get, they just wanted to sit around and cry and say, I want a blonde girl, I don't want a brunette girl, I want a blonde girl, or I don't want an Asian girl, or whatever. But, you know, look, now they're 35, they're bald, failed and they can't get no girls. So they wasted their fucking youth and, you know, their potential's gone. And I don't have any sympathy for these guys. Obviously, you know, I mainly focus, you know, I'm on sub-5s in this channel, guys whose potential is pretty much, you know, next to none. But I mean, when it comes to, or I wouldn't say next to none, but slim potential, when their chances are very slim. But when it comes to the failed normies, I do hope some of them do pull their head out of their ass and do try. But I've given up on trying to help these guys. Some people are like, oh, you don't give any solutions to these guys. And I'm like, that couldn't be further from the truth. But even when I have tried to help them, they just say, oh, you're coping, or oh, you have escortcel in your username, therefore I can't take anything you say seriously. And it's like, I can't help these guys. I'm sorry, these guys are just foobar. But yeah, what can I do hope these guys the best of luck. I do hope, you know, eventually they, you know, either one, you know, start, you know, taking what they can get or start, you know, improving themselves or whatever. But I mean, some of them you just can't help. They like to just sit around and cry, and I mean, it's going to bite them in the ass one day. This is all I got to say for this one, and I'm out.